Good morning, everybody. This is Ed Avis speaking. I'm the publisher of El Restaurante magazine. I'm very happy that you've decided to join us today on this webinar about social media. Before I introduce our speakers for today, I want to tell you that if you have any questions during the presentation, please ask them using the questions tab on your screen. And if you can't see that, click on the little orange box arrow, and that will drop down your menu. Go ahead and ask questions during the presentation. You don't need to wait until the end, even though we might answer them at the end. But I like to get your questions as the presentation is proceeding. Okay, so we have two speakers today. The first is Mark Sorensen. He's the founder and CEO of Social High-Rise. Social High-Rise specializes in social media for restaurants, and they are a partner of El Restaurante insofar as they handle much of our social media. That's why we trust them so much. And we have an offer for El Restaurante readers that provides some extra benefits at a better price. Our other speaker is Mallory Kramer. She is the account management team lead for Social High-Rise, and she has given a number of these webinars. So I know that you are all in good hands with Mark and Mallory. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Mark, are you ready?
We are ready. Thank you, Ed. Yes, my name is Mark Sorensen, and as Ed properly introduced me as the founder and CEO of Social High-Rise, and we have Mallory here as well, who's our account management team lead.
Good morning, everyone.
We are really excited to talk with you. We put some time into what we wanted to present to you all, and our assumption is that all of you are in the boat where you are managing or running or own a restaurant, and social media is something that is on your radar. So we wanted to share with you 5 ways to delight your customers using specifically Facebook and Instagram. Those 2 platforms are really important for restaurants. There's others that are important, but these 2 are really emerging as the central hubs for restaurants to have a presence and be active on. A little bit about us. We have been doing social media for restaurants specifically for a long time. We've worked with well over 600 different restaurants. And when I say 600 restaurants, we do have some small chains that we work with and we love them. But we really are passionate about the smaller owner operators who are running their social media. Things typically are harder for them, and we love to help them manage social media. So that's most of our experiences with restaurants that are smaller in nature and all over the country. Like I mentioned, we manage social media just for restaurants. I think we are the only restaurant-specific social media management company. If there's another one, somebody please email me and let me know, because I don't know who they are. And we've been doing this for 7 years, so we've got quite a bit of experience under our belt helping restaurants delight their clients online, and we want to share with you some of our ideas about that. So the 2 things we want to cover is first a bit of an overview on why does this matter? Why are we here? Why should you care about Facebook and Instagram? Why is it that you should be investing in these 2 platforms, time, resources, energy, money, into making sure that your presence on Facebook and Instagram is on point and up to snuff? And then we want to talk about how to use them specifically. So let's dive right into it. And again, just to reiterate what Ed mentioned, if you have questions about what we're talking about or questions about what we aren't covering, put them in the question queue, and we're totally going to answer them at the end. So another reminder for that. All right, so why should you care about Facebook and Instagram? I'm going to give you 4 different really good reasons for why you should care about this stuff. Reason number 1 is that your most profitable customers are on social media. And whether you realize that or not, that is the case. If you're running a restaurant, if you're looking at your point of sale data, you probably see something like this, that 65% of your revenue comes from the top 25% of your loyal customers. That's really common in the restaurant industry. And who are these top 25% of customers? They are your regulars. They're the people who come once a week, a couple times a week, a couple times a month. They are the people that you know their names, they know you, and for whatever reason, for many reasons, you are on their eating rotation. And they don't need coupons to come in necessarily. They are just happy to be there. And whatever it is that you offer in terms of food and ambiance and customer service, they're in, they're bought in. And because of that, they contribute to the lion's share of your revenue. Well, guess what? Those same customers are the same customers who follow you on Facebook, who like you on Instagram. They're the same customers who write 5-star reviews about you on Yelp and TripAdvisor. So it's important to note that when you're talking on social media, you're not just talking to random people. You're talking to your top 25% of customers who are keeping your doors open, right? And so it's important to remember that that's who you're addressing, and not just people who don't know who you are. You're talking to folks who likely know exactly who you are and want to know more about you beyond just the food, beyond just the specials that many restaurants are used to posting about. Reason number 2 is you can actually influence your customers to purchase more often by being active on Facebook and Instagram. So in 2019, this year, 78% of purchase decisions are influenced by social media content. That is a huge number. That is a massive number, and it's continuing to rise. And so if you aren't investing in Facebook and Instagram, then you are missing out on a huge opportunity to influence how your customers buy from you. And because you're talking to your most profitable customers, it's actually a lot easier to influence them to come just a little more often, spend a little bit more money, bring a few more friends. You can increase their average order values pretty easily by just being active and talking about the right things. We're going to talk about what those right things are. Mallory's going to share a lot about that in just a little bit. But it's important to note that if you're not active, you're missing out. And if you are active, you are participating in shaping their decision-making process and influencing them to come more often. I don't know if any of you follow what happens at the restaurant leadership conferences that happen each year. This was about a year ago, but there was 2 really important takeaways that came out of that conference. And the first one was this, that customers actually want more personalized experiences from restaurants. And that's different than customized experiences. We can all customize what we do for our customers to be something that's different and unique for us as restaurateurs. But customers actually want something that's more personal to them. They want something that's more custom tailored to them personally, right? So they're wanting that more and more. That's one of the trends that was shared and that was important. The other one was this, that customers actually want to spend money at restaurants that share their common values. And this one's very interesting, but it also makes a lot of sense. And if you think about it, we like to spend money with brands and restaurants and spend our money with businesses where we feel like we fit in, where we feel like our values are aligned. And so those are 2 really important trends that have been happening. And so it turns out social media is the very best place to share your restaurant's values. If you want your customers to know what those values are, social media is the best place to do it. Obviously, they can learn about your values when they come inside the restaurant, but there's a lot of distractions there. They are hungry and they're trying to eat, they're trying to order, right? And sometimes the nuances of who you are and what you stand for may get lost in the hunger, right? And so when your customers are not in your restaurant, that's the best time to be connecting with them and sharing about how you live your values. Whether your values are that you are committed to sourcing your ingredients locally, or your values are that you just love dogs and cats, or that you have vegan options, or that you are focused on convenience for families who have kids and want to make dining just as painless as possible. Whatever your passions are and your values are as a restaurant, social media is the place to share them so that your customers know what they are, so that they can connect with them. And by doing that, you attract more like-minded people. So that's reason number 3. Let's talk about customer service for a second. Customer service is a big deal in the restaurant industry. I don't think that's up for debate here. And all of you, if I were to ask you where does customer service fall on your priority list, you would all probably say that it's at the very top, right? If you're operating a restaurant, you care about 3 things basically: that you have good food that gets out on time, that your people show up for work, and that you have excellent customer service. That's what it should be. So customer service is not something that I need to train or teach any of you about the importance of it. And you all know that if you don't have good customer service, it's really hard to stay in business, right? It's just really difficult to do that. And the best restaurants excel in this area. Well, reason number 4 is that social media is all about customer service. And this is a bit of a change from what you might have heard other marketers say regarding social media. Most marketers will talk about social media from a marketing perspective, where you need to be promoting yourself and selling yourself. And although social media is very well suited for that, that should not be the focus. Look, at the end of the day, the reason why you want to invest in Facebook and Instagram, the reason why you want to have those platforms is the goal at the end of the day is to get more butts in seats, sell more food, get more customers. That's the ultimate goal here. But to do that with social media, you can't just charge at it head on. You have to, the way to get more customers is through customer service, right? So that is the focus. So for any other reason than this, you should invest in Facebook and Instagram because you care about customer service. And restaurants who are not active and consistent about posting to their social media, who don't have a good presence, they can't say that they care about customer service, because social media is where customer service happens about your restaurant on the internet. It's the extension that goes beyond the walls of your restaurant that customers can connect with you. And so when you aren't active, you are literally ignoring those people. Okay, so now that we've made the case for why should you care about this, why we're here, let's talk about some ways to actually do this and delight your customers. I'm going to cover the first one, and I'm going to have Mallory go through the other 4. She's got some great stuff prepared. So the first way to delight your customers is a lot of what we just talked about, and that is to make your strategy all about customer service. I feel like a broken record here, and that's because this is probably the most important thing that you can take away from this webinar, is that social media is equal to giving your customers great customer service. Social media is all about customer service. It's all about relationships. It's all about humans and authenticity. It's about being real with people. It's about the emotional ties that people feel towards your restaurant. Yes, there's selling involved, but that's not why people go and follow you on social media. That top 25% of your customers, they didn't go like you on Facebook and follow you on Instagram because they want you to sell to them every day. They like you there and they follow you there because they like you as a restaurateur. They like your food, obviously. They like your ambiance. They like the way that they feel when they come. They like the values that you share. And so that's why they're there. So when you talk on social media, this is the focus that you should have, is making it all about customer service. Your customers are humans. Treat them that way. It's easy to forget that. It's easy to look at the internet and think that there is just these anonymous robot characters who are writing negative reviews for you on social media, or that are following you. These nameless people are just kind of magically following you, but you don't really know who they are, and you can't really see them and know who they are. But they are actual human beings. There's other people on the other side of that. So the best advice for how to make social media about customer service is to treat your customers on social media the same way that you would treat them in-house, right? So if one of your customers gave compliments to the chef, you wouldn't look at them and then keep on walking without saying a word. That would be rude. you would acknowledge them at the very least. You would say thank you back, right? So that's the same way you would want to treat your customers on social media, right? And on the flip side, if a customer has a complaint about their food, you wouldn't just keep on walking and ignore them and wonder what's their problem. You would address it with them. You would work it out, because that's what you know how to do in person. Just keep that in mind when you're dealing with it on social media, because it's the same exact thing. Okay. Finally, just to drive the point home, no one likes fake. No one likes fake people. No one likes fake food. Nobody likes fake stuff. We all want authentic, right? All of you probably claim to be authentic Latin restaurants, right? There is something important about authenticity. And so the same is true for social media. Don't try to be something that you're not. You want to be exactly who you are as a restaurant. Share your wins, share your successes, share your struggles and your failures at times, but be your authentic self. And in doing that, that's how you'll end up sharing what's important to you. That's how you'll share your values. So that's way number one, is to make your social media all about customer service. And I'm going to give this to Mallory now, and she's going to hit you with a bunch of great knowledge.
All right, thank you, Mark, and hi again, everyone. Let's go ahead and dive straight into way number 2 to delight your customers on Facebook and Instagram, which is engage with your customers who are starting conversations about you online. And I'll get more into these here in a minute, but first I wanted to really drive home why this is important, why it's so important to engage with people who are talking about you online. And the big reason is the people who do, they didn't have to. Most people, they come in, they eat, and they leave. And that's great. Obviously, people eating at your restaurant is pretty vital to your survival as a business. But the people who took time out of their day to open their Facebook app, log in on their laptop, go onto Facebook, Instagram, find your profiles, comment on them, follow them, upload their own photos, they went above and beyond for you. They essentially endorsed you online to all of their followers, their friends, their family, the complete strangers that happen to follow them on Instagram. They really did not have to do that. That is the best organic, authentic word of mouth that a restaurant can ask for, and to just leave them hanging, that's really harsh. It's like Mark mentioned, it's like if somebody complimented you to your face in your restaurant and you just walked on by, it's very disheartening. They went above and beyond for you. You can go above and beyond for them by interacting with them online. So the types of engagement you will see on Facebook and Instagram: comments on your posts, comments on your events, sharing your events or your posts, tagging you in photos that they upload, checking in on Facebook, and of course, uploading their own photos. And when you see these, interact with them, give them a like, give them a love, leave a comment, thank them for taking the time, thank them for their photos. You know, be sure you interact with these people who took the time for you. And speaking of photos, that rolls nicely into number 3, which is to use customer photos on your social media. And when I'm talking customer photos, I'm talking about photos that customers took of your food, drink, interior, your bartender making up their favorite cocktail. That is what I'm talking about. So why use customer photos on social media rather than professional photos? Well, the first one and the big one is to customer service reasons. Show your guests some love. I speak from personal experience here that when a business that I admire and I visit all the time uses the photos that I took on their social media, it feels good. It's extremely flattering. And it's acknowledgement of the time and effort I took, or in this case, any of your guests took, to actually take the photo, edit it, and upload it onto their social media. It feels great, and it establishes that personal connection. And wouldn't you know it, it establishes more customer loyalty, and it makes them want to come back, eat more food, and also take more photos and upload more photos. And also, it's practical as heck. With smartphones and with the tech-savvy generation, it's very easy for your everyday customer to take a quality food photo. and upload it online. And then, hey, it's free for you to use. When they upload it on Facebook, when they upload it on Instagram, Twitter, Google Business, Yelp, wherever, you can snag it for free and use it. And just be sure to give them credit. I'll get more into that later. But also, the user-generated photos, the customer photos, often, no, not often, most of the time get better engagement than the professionally staged photos. And again, the tech-savvy generation can tell a professionally staged photo from a candid, authentic photo right away. And professionally staged photos often inspire a bit of cynicism because, you know, anyone can hire a professional food photographer to stage photos and take photos and make them look good. McDonald's can hire a professional food photographer, and yeah, big surprise, the burgers always look 10 times better in the photo than what you actually get. So the professionally staged photos often inspire cynicism, whereas the candid photos, people can tell this is authentic, this is real, this is the dish that this person received at your restaurant. And they know exactly what they're in for, and they trust the average customer more than a professional food photographer. So where do you source these wonderful customer photos? And the answer is everywhere. Everywhere I just mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google Business, Yelp. Go on to your pages, your business's pages on all those sites, and just start gathering the photos. And be sure to save the name of the person who took the photo for giving them credit. Again, I'll get into that. And over on the right here, you can see Canva and PicMonkey. Those are free to use, easy to use photo editing softwares that give the customer photos just a little bit of a boost if they need it. Again, most customer photos are pretty darn delicious looking, but if you need to brighten something up or crop something, Canva and PicMonkey are the way to do it. So how do you give credit? Honestly, it's really simple. First name. If Carol uploads a photo of your street tacos and you use it, you know, guest photo by Carol. Fantastic. It's great. Or you can do it by username, and this is specific to Instagram. When people upload their photo, you know, generally they're not saying, yeah, this is the photo I uploaded, and my name is Carol. They obviously use their Instagram username. So be sure to use that username, and when you use that photo, actually tag them, like with the @ symbol, and then they get notified that you tag them in their post, tag them in your post. They see it. That almost always results in likes, comments, shares on their Instagram stories, which I'll get more into in a minute. But tagging people who actually uploaded that photo is a great way to spread more word of mouth and customer appreciation. Okay, so way number 4 is responding to Facebook recommendations. Recommendations are reviews. So when I say Facebook recommendations, what I mean are reviews. So positive ones, again, they went out of their way to publicly write compliments about your business. They didn't have to do that. So be sure to acknowledge them and respond with a comment to show how grateful you are, welcome them back, address them how you would in-house. Pretty simple. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or fancy. Just be sure to show them appreciation. So next, for challenging reviews, aka negative reviews, as someone who worked in food service for 10 years, I completely empathize with how frustrating this can be. But take a deep breath. It is completely possible to address challenging reviews in a way that is professional without throwing your restaurant under the proverbial bus. And honestly, I could be here for another hour talking about how to address challenging reviews, but I'm going to keep this succinct and just give you our layout for how we address challenging reviews or sometimes challenging comments on your post. And that is to greet them, repeat their core feedback back to them so they know you are paying attention, you know, make a promise of action. Either I will be looking in on this with my team, or, you know, just so you know, if there's ever anything wrong with a dish, simply let your server know and we'll replace that for you. And then give them a farewell and move on with your day. And of course, pro tip, recognize when feedback is legitimate and make necessary changes. No one's perfect. It's completely okay and completely necessary to recognize legitimate feedback. So last and certainly not least is using Instagram stories and Instagram highlights. So what are Instagram stories? Instagram stories is essentially content in a slideshow format. It is also temporary. They are only up for 24 hours. I use Instagram stories for content that I want to share on the restaurant pages, but don't necessarily have a permanent place on the actual profile page. So it's more casual, more behind the scenes, more fun. And the Instagram stories, if you have an Instagram account, when you log in and you look at your feed, and at the very top you see all those profile pictures with the rainbow wheel around them, that is an Instagram story, and that is where your stories will live. So it's really nice. They're right at the top. And in fact, content on Instagram stories has a 50% faster consumption rate because they don't have to scroll through their feed to find you. They just click on your Instagram story and it auto-plays. And Instagram stories have a lot of really cool tools. Some of them are practical, like being able to tag your location. And when an Instagram user clicks on that tag, it'll open up their maps and show them where your restaurant is, which obviously is a huge help. And there's also stuff like countdown. So if you have a very popular holiday dish coming up that people always look forward to every year, you can start a countdown until that is released. You can tag other users, other vendors, and again, that notifies them, which results in a lot of resharing and a lot of appreciation. And there's also a lot of fun stuff on Instagram stories, as you can see here by the cat with the laser eyes, which I absolutely had to put on here because it's just so fantastic. These, you can see they use the marker tool to draw the laser eyes and then the little mouse sticker. These are definitely more fun, more casual, behind the scenes with beloved staff members. You can get a little goofy. Their Instagram stories are temporary, so they don't have to be curated and serious. But if you are a higher end restaurant and you don't necessarily want to do the silly stuff, they do have a wide range of graphics that are range from silly to classy, and you can choose what you would like and go from there. And then I've mentioned resharing a couple of times, but essentially if you tag someone in your Instagram story, they can then share it on to their Instagram story. So again, spreading word of mouth, spreading customer appreciation, and then you can reshare it. As you can see in this example, they just kind of kept resharing and got a little goofy with it. But that's a good way to establish a personal connection with your Instagram followers. So next is highlights. Highlights are essentially folders for your Instagram stories in the event you want your Instagram story to have a permanent place on your page. You don't want them to disappear after 24 hours. So that is what highlights are. You can just create little categories here and put them on your page. For restaurants, we usually go, food, drink, our guests, our events, and have them right there on top of your profile. In the left photo, you can see this person's on their profile page. Those circles near the middle of the screen are the highlight categories. And then whenever your followers are on their page, they can click on your Instagram highlight and just be taken through all of the stories that are saved in that category, also known as folder. And the best thing about highlights is you can add to them at any time. So if you have Instagram, if you create highlights and you're like, wow, I had a lot of great Instagram stories, but they're several weeks old and I didn't save them in the highlight, you can go back into your archive, pull up that story and save it into your highlight at any time. It's very flexible, very forgiving.
Awesome. Thanks, Mallory. Okay, so quick recap. Here's the 5 ways. So if you're going to take screenshots, this is maybe a good slide to take a screenshot of. So make your strategy about customer service. Engage and acknowledge customers who are talking about you online. Use customer photos, use their photos on your social media. Allow them to help tell your story through their photos. Respond to Facebook recommendations. And then finally, use Instagram stories and highlights. Those are 5 of our best ideas for how you can actually delight your customers online. When you delight your customers online, that is what's going to, again, inspire them to come more often, bring more people with them, order more, tip your servers more, spread more word of mouth. That's how you are able to actually generate more business, more revenue through social media, is by making the focus on your customers. Cool. So with all of that said, it would be remiss of us if we didn't cover a couple of these common pitfalls. If you are a restaurant owner, this first one, you definitely have time constraints. you are focused on operating your restaurant, you may not be so focused on managing your social media. We get it, we understand that, and sometimes that's really the right choice. You shouldn't be spending time managing your social media because you should be spending time working on your business. But if you are, and you are making the time, even still, you might hit creative blocks. You might run out of ideas of what to post about. You might just have your mind might go blank and you'll fall into the creative ruts or have creative blocks, and that's really frustrating. Again, you want to be working on the business, not in the business. You want to build your business, not be an employee of it. And so the time you spend on social media could otherwise be spent doing more high value tasks. And sometimes success might not be a really clear, you might not have a clear picture of what that is, about the impact it has on your business. Because there's so many voices out there telling a lot of different advice, and a lot of that advice is bad advice for restaurants, right? It might be good advice for big giant national audience companies, but for a small mom and pop restaurant, it's probably not the same good advice. And so it can be confusing what success should really look like. These are all really, really common pitfalls. Now, as I mentioned, we manage social media for restaurants specifically. That's what we do. We've been doing it for a long time, and we're really, really good at it. When we partner with restaurants, these are the areas that we help them in. We manage, of course, Facebook and Instagram. We also can manage Twitter, and then responding to customer reviews on Google and Yelp and TripAdvisor. We can run Facebook ads for the more traditional digital marketing aspect of social media. We also help search, which is really, really critical. And if there's some graphic design needs, we can cover those as well. Most of our clients will spend anywhere from $250 to $700 a month for us to partner with them and fully take social media off of their plate. And as Ed mentioned earlier, we have partnered together to create a special plan exclusively for readers of El Restaurante. And that plan means that we will manage just Facebook and Instagram, exactly what we talked about today. And for that plan, we're only charging $199 a month, which is actually a great deal. You can shop that price around and you'd find that that's very, very competitive. It's very affordable. And if you are interested in learning more about that plan or anything else that we offer, you can go to socialhighrise.com/El Restaurante, and you can find out more about this specific offer, which is, again, only available to readers of El Restaurante magazine. So this isn't published anywhere else on our website. That's it. And so with that, we want to answer your questions. What questions do you have?
Great. Thank you very much, Mark and Mallory. Yes, so if you have questions, please put them in the question tab and we will answer them. Mark, we have a couple here that I'm going to start with. One of them is, and this regards the photos that you talked about. How can we help our customers take photos? And I think the meaning here is what can a restaurant do to encourage customers to take photos? And is there something they can do to help them take better photos or better stage or something like that? Or is that not appropriate?
That's an excellent question. That's a very, very good question. There are lots of answers to that question. I think it's a fantastic idea to encourage your customers to take photos. That happens naturally when you share their photos online. We find that it's not uncommon for us to share a customer's photo, and then a few weeks later when they come back to the restaurant, they've shared another photo, and this time they've tagged you and they've used your hashtag. It's almost like they're trying to be noticed. So just by sharing their photos to begin with, that will naturally inspire them to want to share more photos. But if you don't have photos that are being shared by customers to begin with, our recommendations are try to make it obvious. You don't want to necessarily be superimposing on your concept, but signage is a good idea. You can have signage that says share your photos. You can have signage that lets them know what your Instagram handle is, and that you're on Facebook. You can, if you're using a specific hashtag that you want them to use so that you can find those photos easily, let them know what it is. Depending on your concept, you can train your employees to say, like, hey, we'd love to see you share your experience, like share your photos with us. if that's too I guess forceful, signage should do the trick. As a side note, this is a problem that we are actually very interested in. We're testing some tools right now that actually help you do this exact thing. We call it Social Assist. If you go to our website, you could probably find information about Social Assist. You could sign up for our beta, and we are trying to help restaurants generate more customer photos by asking them in a unique way that's not imposing. I hope that answers the question. Now, do you have anything else that you want to add?
You hit the nail on the head.
I think that, yeah, that's it. So yes, you can ask. Signage is great. Share their photos, and that will naturally help them to know to share more photos.
Thank you, Mark. Let me add something to that very quickly. I think it's when I go to a Mexican restaurant, naturally I like to speak with the owner if I can, and the wait staff, etc. And I often take pictures too, especially if it's the editor and I, Kathy Floor, my wife, because I like to share that on our own social media. And I am amazed at how often the wait staff do not know what the Twitter name or Instagram name or something is of their own restaurant. And then I need to hunt it down. So I think that's just one little piece of advice I'd like to add is make sure your wait staff are fully aware of your social media information and put it in your menu. That just makes it so much easier when readers take a nice photo and they want to post it that they can tag you.
That is
okay. Let me go on to the next question here, Mark. Here's one. Can't I just use auto posting to manage all of those platforms myself?
Yes, you can. We don't recommend doing that. At some point, auto posting makes it easier to create one piece of content and have that content shared to another platform. So if you were, what's really common is that you are creating content on Instagram, and that Instagram auto posts to Facebook, and maybe even auto posts to Twitter. That's really common. You have to create content at some point, so there is work that needs to be done. You know, unless your social media doesn't just create itself without any effort, right? What we recommend is if you are managing this yourself, we don't recommend auto posting because each platform has a very unique format that it requires. So for example, if you were to follow our advice and tag your customers, give them credit for their photos, and tag vendors, and when you're sharing about your vendors on Instagram, and then you had that post auto post to Facebook, Facebook doesn't recognize those handles. And so those handles look like unclickable text, and it's really obvious that you just auto posted from Instagram to Facebook. What that does is it sends the subtle message to your audience that you don't actually care about Facebook, or you don't actually care about Twitter. Wherever you're auto posting to, you don't actually care about people on that platform, and it gives customers fewer reasons to follow you on other platforms. It's kind of the easy button, but it's we don't recommend it because you lose out. Another example is Twitter. Twitter has a character limit. If your post is more than the 250 characters that Twitter allows, it'll get cut off, and it'll just be an ugly link to Facebook. So we see that's really common, and that's just not, doesn't give people good reasons to follow you. Like it makes it sound like that's an afterthought when because this is all about customer service, that's the last thing that you want your customers to feel like, is that this is an afterthought.
There's also lots of tools that you wouldn't be taking advantage of if you were to auto post. For example, Facebook and Instagram allow you to put in your restaurant's location, whereas Twitter doesn't. Facebook and Twitter allows you to put in links, whereas Instagram doesn't. And so just kind of by auto posting on all three of those platforms, or wherever platforms you're putting on, you have to get it to bare bones and extremely general, and that misses out on just so many tools that you could be taking advantage of. And I understand, you know, as restaurant owners, you're incredibly busy. It's like, do I really have to open 3 different apps and copy paste this whole thing and upload the photo? There are scheduling softwares where you can post on all 3 of those. We use Hootsuite. There's several others that allow you to schedule content on those platforms. They also schedule in advance, which I also highly recommend. So you're not doing it on the fly, which can be very stressful.
That's true. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Good answers there. Okay, here's another question. This was a very specific one. A Facebook profile was started for our business many years ago, and the login password has been lost. It's been quite a struggle to retrieve or create a new password from Facebook. Do you recommend we keep trying to take control over that same page or begin a new Facebook page?
That's a great question. That's a common problem. That problem is particularly common when you are asking your staff to run your social media. This is another one of the pitfalls of managing it in-house, is that you trust somebody on your team to set it up and run it. And then, as you know, there's a lot of turnover in the restaurant industry. And so that employee leaves and they take all of your passwords with them. And sometimes it's difficult or impossible to get that stuff back. I guess it depends. The first thing that I would do is I would start a new Facebook page, because you have no ability to share on social media, and I would just start over. And I would also recommend continuing to try to get access to the old page. If we're talking about Facebook, Facebook does have the best courses of action that they give you to be able to recover pages that you've lost track of. But if you're just waiting around to get access to your old page, you're kind of you're a sitting duck, and and so if you do ever get access to your old page, Facebook gives you the ability to merge those two pages together. So while you are building a new audience and not waiting around, if you do get access to the old page, you can merge them together. It combines those audiences into one page. That's possible for sure. As far as like how do you get access to the old page, you can't just break into a page. Facebook won't allow you to just take one over and break in. Our recommendation is whatever you can do, whatever you need to do to get in contact with the person who had that set up, even if there's bad blood there, even if you've got to swallow some pride, even if they were a toxic person, in my opinion, it's almost always worth it to get a hold of them to get access to the page. And sometimes that's just the best way to do it, is you kind of bite the bullet, figure out who it was, and see if you can get anywhere with that. But it is true that if that doesn't work, there is no way to just break into a Facebook page. Facebook, won't, even if you have the business license, even if you have all this stuff to prove that you are the business, Facebook isn't really open to allowing you to kind of take over a page that is owned by somebody else.
And to add on, if in the event you honestly have no idea who has access to that old Facebook page, you can contact Facebook support, explain the situation, and I've had it where Facebook support will try and find out who is admin on that page, who's owner on that page, and try and reach out to them and ask them about, giving up access. If in the end you can't regain access to that old Facebook page, just know that with inactivity, that Facebook page will just essentially disappear from Facebook's algorithm. People won't be able to, if people search for it, that page is not the first one that's going to come up, which is exactly why you do need to create a new Facebook page and be active on it. And the more active you are, the higher that is going to appear on Facebook search. And so have that active page and just kind of let that other page die out if you can't get access to it again.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Here's a question that is referring to the Instagram stories, Mallory. You had mentioned that they last 24 hours. And this question is, if customers do a story and we share them, does that extend the 24 hours?
Yes, when you share a customer story, it is now your story, and it starts the clock at 24 hours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, here's another question. Should I respond to my reviews privately or in public? And is it different for positive or negative reviews?
That is a fantastic question, and I'd be happy to jump in and answer that. For reviews on all sites, we do public and private, as long as the site allows. So say for Yelp and TripAdvisor, you can do public and private. And for Google Business, and I believe Facebook now, Facebook changes every 3 months, but for Google Business and Facebook, they only allow public comments, so we do public. So let's start off with like Yelp and TripAdvisor, reach out to the reviewer privately and do a more personalized response for positive and negative. It's, more personalized, more direct. Sometimes we're asking them questions to get more details as to their visit. That's the private message. And then for the public response on Yelp and TripAdvisor, we will write a shorter response that alludes to that private response, like, thank you so much for taking the time to write this review. We've sent you a personalized thank you to your inbox. Check that when you can. And so the customer gets, the more direct communication, which is, vital to establishing that personalized connection. And then everyone else who is viewing the Yelp page, the TripAdvisor page, can see that you as business owners are taking the time to respond to each and every review. And then on Facebook and Google Business, it's all public. Sometimes Facebook, it might depend on the person's privacy settings, allows you to private message that person, in which case do the same as Yelp and TripAdvisor. Reach out to them personally and then put a public comment about that personalized private message.
Yeah, and I'll just add, like, the reason why you want to make the response private first is because you'll just get farther with the customer. It doesn't feel good to be called out or to have a kind of a heated interaction when there's a public audience. It's the same reason why you don't like call out your employees for making a mistake with everybody else watching. Like, that's just rude, and it's likely that your employee's not going to really receive the feedback very well. It's the same thing with customers. If you can have that interaction in a private setting first, you're far more likely to get somewhere with it. In our experience, it's not uncommon for customers who write 1 and 2 and 3-star reviews to respond to a private message and say, thank you for responding. That was unexpected. You know what? I understand your perspective. I'll give you another shot in a few weeks. And a few weeks go by and their 2-star review goes to a 4-star review. That's not uncommon, but oftentimes you never get that outcome if you only do a public response, because it can feel like you're being called out in public, like the rug is being pulled out from underneath you. People get defensive. So Mallory had what she said was exactly right. But I just want to say that was another private versus public.
And the private thing applies to positive reviews as well, because I know, with the negative reviews, you kind of want to have that more direct connection, and that is also with positive reviews. It's the metaphor we use. It's like if somebody gave you a compliment directly in a restaurant, you wouldn't just like turn to the rest of the restaurant and like, wow, look at this awesome positive comment that we got. Did everybody hear it? Can you repeat it? It's, you personally thank them. It's that personal connection, not showboating, not bragging, just a personal thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We have one more question, but let me remind attendees, we do have 12 minutes left. If you have another question, don't hesitate to ask. Use the questions tab. Let me read this question here. Is there a kind of post that generates the most engagement? In your view, what are the kinds of posts that I should be focused on?
There are lots of posts that generate engagement. If engagement you're talking about, my mind immediately goes to customer comments. A great way that we found to do that is to ask questions. What's your favorite margarita? What's your favorite appetizer? Sometimes it's even fun to do a mini poll, like, hey, horchata or, or Mayan hot chocolate, and just kind of people just kind of like to chime in. They don't want to think too much about what they're going to post. So if you present them with the answers and they get to choose one and put that in the comments and get like a friendly kind of competitive method or attitude, that has been successful for us. But there are quite a few. You can ask for memories, you can ask for photos even, and also being sure to showcase your authentic history, your personality, your food, and to just get the conversation started.
Yeah, I'll echo, that's exactly right. And sometimes engagement is not just comments, but also just reactions on your post, Facebook, likes, shares. What the biggest pitfalls we see restaurant owners making is making their social media all promotional based, right? So we kind of see it as there's two, it's like the Venn diagram, if you can imagine, like the two circles. You've got on one side all the things that you want your customers to care about, like your specials and your food and coming and buying from you more often, and your events and et cetera. And then on the other side, it's all the things that your customers actually care about, which is, yeah, a little bit about your food, but also kind of the behind the scenes, where their food comes from, interesting facts about your story, where, what your history is, et cetera. And so you're constantly trying to like figure out where those two circles overlap. And so you can do that by a lot of testing, right? So you can post something and you can see what kind of engagement it gets. If you look at your Facebook Insights, you can go back in time and see which of my posts got the best engagement. And you can kind of start to gravitate towards talking about those themes or composing content that's formatted in that same style. And on the flip side, if you have content that doesn't get good engagement or gets zero engagement, which is common, well, that's your customers are telling you that they don't care about that stuff because they're not engaging with it. And then all the other things that we talked about, customer photos get better engagement than even flashy photos. They definitely get better engagement than memes. They get better engagement than graphic design flyers that should be on a printout and not on social media. They get better engagement than even photos that you would take yourself as a restaurant owner, because we all know that most of the photos you take are 20 minutes before you open when there's nobody in the restaurant and you're just trying to get things set up for the day, right? So those photos get less engagement than photos that customers take where it's an actual authentic experience that they have, where there's people in the photos and there's food you can feel the difference in the experience, and those typically get better engagement.
Excellent, thank you. Here's one more. I want to be active on social media, but I rarely know what to post about. I don't have time to always be taking photos or thinking of new things to talk about. What should I do?
Well, you should hire us. That's what you should do. I mean, just to put it bluntly, because that's a challenge that just doesn't go away. It's really hard. And what we found is that restaurant owners just really start to resent social media after a while, because it's important. That's why we're all here, right? There's importance there, but it just really isn't something you want to do. You got better things to spend your time on. If you have somebody in-house, one of your team members of your team who is social savvy, who has great grammar, who can spell things correctly, and who has a good eye for design
and is dependable,
then congratulations, you won the lottery. And I would give social media and delegate it to them, but make it like an official delegation, right? Like make it part of their job description. Maybe even give them a little bonus for doing it. I don't know. And if you don't have the luxury of somebody reliable who is on your team, then partnering with a third party is a great alternative. And oftentimes it's actually a lot less expensive than doing it in-house. At the end of the day, because you're managing it in-house and struggling to think of what to post about and how this should all come together, there's a big opportunity cost for you as a restaurant owner, where you could be spending your time on other more valuable things than social media. Social media is still important, but for you to be doing the nitty-gritty management of it is not necessary. There's other people that can do it. That's why we exist, right? And so what we do is we take that off of your plate, but we do it in collaboration. So your participation is less about, you need to just tell us what to post, and your participation is, hey, we're going to ask you questions, and that will tell us what we should be posting about. We're going to learn about your business, and then we can tell the story from there. And if we ever get stuck, then we're going to be the friendly reminder in your ear to keep it on your radar, so that it just doesn't fall by the wayside and doesn't get done, right? We find that most restaurant owners really, really appreciate reliable partners that are going to bug them when things need to get done, and put things on their radar, even if you are busy, because you are, right? And so it gets done, and you don't have to be managing the process, right? You just get to participate when you're needed. As far as like, how do you come up with ideas? There's a million ways to do that. I mean, what's also difficult is that you're really close to the process. So a lot of things that are otherwise really interesting and unique aspects of your restaurant are sometimes hard to see, right? Because you're there every day and things, you know, it's like, why would anyone care what the name of the guy who delivers the kegs, what his name is and his story is? He's just the guy that comes every week and you see him and it's just kind of business as usual. But there's a whole story there, right? You might be sourcing your ingredients from the same local producer for years, and so it's just old hat to you. But there's an interesting story there that your customers would actually really, really care about. You might, you know, so how do you come up with ideas? You tell the day-to-day story, right? And that might feel very out of your comfort zone, but that's how you do it, is you tell the story. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that answers your question. But honestly, if you want to talk about that more specifically, you know, go to this URL, put your information in there, and we can get on the phone and like walk through specifically your situation, and I can give you like more, you know, more personalized advice. Whether our service is a good fit or not, like I'm happy to help you do that, and that's true for any of you who are listening. We're happy to help guide you in this journey.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mark and Mallory. Your information today has been very valuable. And I want to tell the attendees that this webinar has been recorded and it will be posted either later today or sometime tomorrow. So be on the lookout for an email about that so you can watch it again or share it with other staff members. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending today, and I welcome you to pay close attention to our website for upcoming webinars. We plan 4 or 5 of them every year, and I hope you all enjoy the October, November, December issue of El Restaurante, which should be arriving in your mailboxes this week. Thank you, everybody, and that concludes today's webinar.
Thank you.
Ed. Thanks for having us.